Hello, and welcome back to the Perfect 100. Before we begin today's episode, I want to share a little context about a moment in the upcoming conversation. During our earlier recording, we experienced a few technical interruptions that affected the flow. You might notice a slight lag in places, so I want to thank you in advance for giving your grace. In listening back to the episode, I realized that there was a moment I should have explored a little more intentionally. When I asked Garrett what made him feel comfortable choosing entrepreneurship straight out of college, his answer surprised me. It wasn't comfort, it was actually survival. He briefly referenced a season in college when he was living on the street, something we didn't pause to unpack at the time because of the tech interruptions that we were having. With his permission, we're sharing that context here at the beginning because it gives deeper meaning to everything that follows. So before we return to the original conversation, I asked Garrett to take us back to that season in his life. Hey, Garrett.
Hey, Tammy.
All right, we're back. So, Garrett, after we spoke, after the recording, I reached back out to you and we spoke, and you shared about that season in your life that kind of shaped everything that followed. Would you be willing to take us back to that time and tell us what was happening and what changed for you?
Yeah, for sure. So to take you back, we have to go quite a bit of a ways back before,
Yes.
just the moment of my breakdown. I was a really good student. I was a 4.0. I mean, I probably graduated with a 99 grade point average in high school. I mean, top of my class. And I just got to college and, I had moved far away from my family and I went to play soccer at East Tennessee State and didn't really make it the way I wanted it to. And I wasn't sure of what else to do. So I just got into a group of not so great people. You know, um, my whole, looking back on everything, I've kind of found, and there's a speaker, I don't know his name, but he says, you're the average of the five people you hang around. And for me, this like the law of six people, I think is
Right.
what it's called. And, looking back, and that's definitely what it was. I found five people that were, you know, partying and looking like they were having the most fun. And I was like, I'm away from my parents. And that's what I decided to do. I decided to, you know, think I was too smart for my own good and started, drinking and, I wasn't really, doing drugs until probably my sophomore year. In between, I didn't go back home between freshman and sophomore year and I didn't have parental guidance, and it's not of no fault to my parents. My parents, let me be an adult and let me make my decisions. And I, definitely commend them for that because I think I grew a lot more, from that. And, yeah, so that's kind of where it all started. I went crazy. I mean, seriously, by the time I was a sophomore, I mean, there wasn't a time I was really showing up to class that I wasn't high, on something,
Okay.
and it just kept getting, more and more and more. The more I would do, the more I would want. And, life felt more normal high than it did, sober. So, by the time I was a senior, on my junior year, going into my senior year, I was getting my accounting degree and I had failed like pretty much all the class. Like I came into college with 18 credits. I failed enough where like I was going to be a semester behind. And if I didn't, uh, pass this, financial accounting 2 course over the summer. So, I did, but I still was just, wasn't really working anywhere and I wasn't doing much of anything other than just like making sure I got through this one course. And I mean, I was 21 finally. So, I went to the bars and that's where like really my life, like it was already spiraling, but
Right.
then it was like, all right, now it was like I was going to bars on Sundays and I was like, why isn't everybody here? And they're like, it's Sunday. This is not a
Right.
normal day. And I was like, oh, it's Sunday? Like, I didn't even know what day it was. Like, and my life kind of just kept going like that for weeks on end. And I was in between two houses and I was living at someone's house for, I think, a 2 week period, like living on their couch. And there were days that like I just wouldn't even come back to their house. Like, I don't know where I was. There was one day, I mean, specifically the day that really changed my life is the day that I actually woke up just on the street and
Okay.
I had no one around me except this stranger coming out of her apartment and saw me, and I was I was just thinking to myself, like, what about if that was my mother? Like, how unsafe I'm making this other person feel right now. And I like got up and I ran away. I just like ran away. I didn't know where I was going. I thought I was another state over from Tennessee. I was just like, who knows where I just woke up.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I like ran like 2 blocks away. I mean, it turned out like the house that I was about to rent was 2 blocks away. I guess that's where I was going, but it just like, it was crazy. It just like my whole life was just insane. And it got to the point like I didn't even need the 5 people anymore. It was just me. Like it
Right.
was like I took full accountability at that moment, was like, well, I am way too far. And I just kind of looked back on my life and was like, what do I have now? I mean, what did I have like when I was in high school and like doing good compared to now? It's like, well, I didn't have drugs and alcohol, that's for sure. And I at least was like going to church. So, I mean, I don't know like what's the right church, what's not. I just know that like if I read the Bible from start to finish, like I know it's going to change my life. And I've always been an avid reader. I love books. As you could see, I've got a whole book collection and I've probably read half of them. So I just decided that was going to be it for me. And every step of the way, the Bible says the washing of water by the word, and that is so true. Every page, every word that you read out of the Bible will truly cleanse you. And it cleansed me. It took a long time. I had a lot of stuff to cleanse for sure, but, it took about 9 months, of cleansing. And, I truly just, yeah, I mean, I was still, you know, doing some things occasionally, but I'd given up drugs entirely. Like I've always been like, I'm going to quit something and never pick it up again. And that's always what I've done. And, I had a lot of growing to do from there too, personally. And it took years. Like if anybody ever tells you like, oh, just stop everything and like, just become a Christian and everything gets better. It's like, no, you still
Doesn't work
have
like that.
so
Yeah.
many psychological issues that you have to go through. Like it took me years of counseling. It took a lot of healing, with my relationship with my parents, and, a lot of healing with people that knew me, and knew that I was that person that, um, you're supposed to have a good, relationship between you and the world as a Christian. And I had a lot of people that I just had to call and apologize to. And they were just like, I don't even believe you. Like, you were such a wild person. Like, how could you just 180 like
Right.
this? And a lot of people know me now and they're like, what? Like I told
Right.
someone today that, I told him my story because he had asked, because told him I was going to be on this podcast. And he was like, are you kidding me? Like out of everyone that I know, you would be the last person
Right.
that I would have thought would have been a drug addict and an alcoholic and just an actual crazy person. And, yeah, I just decided that I was just going to replace all the bad habits with all the good ones. And I mean, my life continued to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're gonna, when you hear the episode, you talked
Hmm.
about some early childhood trauma, for those that are listening, that you, they're gonna hear about that. And I think that that impacts people, right? The younger you are, the harder it can be. And, my own stepson has suffered similar kinds of traumas. And, I think that how people deal with things is unique to them. So, that you choose, in many cases, to make that switch, and that I'm so happy for you that you found that thing that worked for you.
Hmm.
And, hopefully that'll be something others will hear and know that they can get through the crazy times too. In the episode, we also talk about discipline and belief being strong drivers. How did that turning point influence who you are today?
So I think no matter what, like, no matter the difficult times that I go through, that, well, number one, I always know like where to turn to. Like any troubles I'm going through, I always turn to the Bible because God knows so much. Like God on his worst day is better than us on our best day. So I read, every single day, at least 3 chapters, sometimes more. And just try to continually like set my day with that and discipline myself spiritually. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. It's a paraphrase of, but I'm a firm believer in that. I think that, you seek God first and everything else comes after. I saw God first, the shelter came, my food came, my relationship with my family came. And then not only like when I, was reading, learned the plan of salvation, was baptized for the forgiveness of my sins, became a Christian at that point, and was joined into the church, God added me. Then I continued to learn, every single day. Like, it doesn't, like, you just become a Christian and like, that's it, like, you're done.
Right. It's
It's just the continual work, the discipline that it takes to continue to learn and to continue to grow. Because no matter how much you know, like, it's kind of like a wicker basket. You pour water into it, it'll clean the basket, but the water falls out and you got to keep, putting it in there. So like, that's kind of like the application I use for my life, and the discipline from just the reading from the beginning to the end of the Bible. It's like, I always look back and I'm like, like, I did that and I got through, like, withdrawals and, you know, literally 40 of my best friends at the same time. I was in a fraternity. Like, they dropped me because I was so crazy. And I just was like, I'm like 100% alone. Like, I have like nobody. Like, I lived with 4 people. One of them was a drug dealer, and like all of them turned against me, and which I don't blame them, cause I was like, now like reading the Bible and doing all the things. And like, I started working out and like my whole life changed completely, like complete turnaround. And, they even got me kicked out of my house, that I was living in. So I had to move back home. And then it was like God had just like plucked me out of this environment. Like, I was in like the wilderness, like Moses. And then he just plucked me out and he was like, all right, I'm going to put you back, with, people again, real normal people, Christians. And not that Christians are the only normal people. I just mean like I was back in like real civilization again, and it was amazing. And I flourished, like, and then I became a Christian. 20 days later, I started my business. And then it was just like boom, 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 boom. I sold my truck. I sold my car, bought my truck. My dad gave me a trailer. And then like, I got another truck, and then I got an enclosed trailer, and I started doing real moves, and then I started doing
and
cross
all of
country.
that comes. So that'll all be in the episode coming up here. So, but we wanted to give you some context going forward, because with the tech challenges, we missed a few things. So, anything else you need to add to that before we send them on into the episode?
Yeah, no matter what you're going through, just know that you just have to keep looking up to God, and know that he's going to get you through as long as you believe on him.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. It's not often that I listen back to something and think, gosh, that was unfinished. And I wanted to reach out to you and have more conversation around it. And I appreciate you for filling in more depth, because I think for me, it was hearing it. I thought that people you're already moving things past that is unusual for someone younger to do, and then to know that there's even more, I thought would be inspiring to people. So I appreciate you sharing that. And now enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening to The Perfect 100. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to show up differently in your chapter, share it with your team, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you're curious about your own Clifton strengths and how to bring out the best in yourself or your chapter or your business, head to TammyZurak.com to learn more about building your superpowers into everything you do. Keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep building your perfect 100. Hello and welcome back to the Perfect 100. Today's guest is someone who stands out in BNI for all the right reasons. Garrett Hunter is the owner of a growing moving company and family with a baby on the way, and a BNI member who joined early in his business journey. He has steadily expanded his team, his fleet, and his scope of work, including longer haul moves across state lines. What makes Garrett especially interesting is that he brings the same mindset to business that he brings to life outside of it. He was into Jiu-Jitsu, and he's known in the chapters for spontaneous backflips in meetings, and he operates with a level of discipline and responsibility that is unusual for his age. I've also had the opportunity to experience his business firsthand. Garrett's team moved my business, showed up early, worked efficiently, and handled everything with professionalism and care. We're going to talk more about all of that today. So let's jump in. Hi, Garrett.
Hey, Tammy. I appreciate that.
How are you
That was
today?
wonderful.
Good
I'm
stuff,
very
right?
humbled by the backflip part for
All right, before
sure.
we go further, oh, okay, awesome. Well, we've been in, people listening won't know, but you were in my your original chapter was also one of my chapters. And so I've seen you from the start, and that
Yeah.
was definitely a noteworthy thing that most of us have seen. All right, let's go ahead and jump into your 45 so you can tell everybody what you want them to know.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Garrett Hunter, and I own LightSpeed Moving and Storage. So we're a local and long-distance moving and packing company located right here in Memphis, Tennessee. So what we primarily do is service the Memphis area. Our reach is with anywhere within the 49 continuous states, though. So we're really hunting for that move to Alaska. And we're looking to partner with companies like other realtors, restoration coordinators, and senior living teams who help people move into their next chapter. So of course, if you're at home, have you ever felt that moving is just an endless staircase with no way out? Our clients typically do before they hire us, especially our client Heidi. We moved her about 100 miles away, and the elevator broke down on our move to the sixth floor. But here's what she said: they handled it all like champs, even stayed late to assemble furniture. It wasn't part of the plan. Most pleasant move I've had in 60 plus years. That's what we do at Lightspeed, not just moving boxes up an insane amount of stairs, but carry people through one of life's most stressful transitions.
Awesome. So in other words, we can look at your step meter and it will wow us.
Yeah, sometimes it gets as high as about 4 miles in a day, 5 miles in a day. It's on up there.
All right. Well, before we get into your business more, let's take a step a little further back. What was your childhood like? What did your parents do, and what kind of environment did you grow up in?
Great and tough question. So yeah, my parents actually split up. Like our house burned down when I was 3, and they split up around the same time. So I lived with my mom most of my life until I was 18. My dad kind of came back around when I was 8 years old, and so we were kind of like weekend warriors, going back and forth because we lived about an hour and a half away from my dad. So kind of grew up just like that for most of my life, and yeah, I mean it was always tough, dealing with divorced parents and being a divorced child, and I was more of like a loner for the most part. I did play a lot of sports though, so just a lot of soccer. I did karate. I got my black belt when I was a kid. I did gymnastics. I did piano lessons. I mean, I was super involved and played a whole lot of video games. So, like, I got a Nintendo 64 playing Super Mario when I was a kid, like when I was 4, right after the house fire. And from then on, I mean, it stayed the same way, probably till college. And then once I got to college, I went to East Tennessee State, and yeah, I mean, it's far. I mean, that's 450, 550 miles away from Memphis, and it was hard being around away from my family. And made a lot of great friends up there, and got my accounting degree, and came back. And because I mean, I still thought I was a kid even when I started my business, and some days still feel that way.
Well, fair enough. Your dad was in BNI. He was in my chapter before you joined, and then he left, and then you came in. So, what did you learn about his experience from being in BNI, and what did you bring forward from that?
Yes, first off, he said Tammy was incredible. Get to know her as soon as you can. So, also, what my dad taught me was to be memorable. He's one of the best public speakers that I've ever met in my life. I mean, seriously, like he has some form of fame that he'll never know because he is just that good. And he just told me to be spectacular. He always put that into me. Told me that's what I am. Told me to be that, and that's what I would put into my presentations, just like the backflips, right? Like there aren't many people that are doing backflips, and so I always try to push the envelope in a good way, not a bad way.
Not
I'm not profane or vulgar or anything. I don't,
Yeah.
I'm a very professional guy when it comes to BNI and my personal life. I consider myself a very spiritual person. So, yeah, it's be memorable, because the key aspects of being knowable, likable, and trustable is like the know and like you part are two of the biggest keys, because anybody can come to do their job, anybody can be a professional, but to just not show up and be a robot, and be somebody personal, have a heart. That's the key thing that my dad taught me.
Awesome. Love that. So looking back now, you've been through a lot, as a lot of people have in their childhood. What parts of what you do as a business owner now feel directly connected to kind of what your experiences were as you were raised?
Yeah, I think the biggest key is just perseverance, and dealing with sometimes strained relationships. Being in the movement industry, you deal with all types of different scenarios. You deal with people passing away. We move estates, and we also move people get divorced, people get married, and we deal with both kinds. And you have to be very personal with these people, and be in some of the most intimate aspects of their entire life. Some people live 100 years. I mean, we're with them for a span of sometimes a whole day, sometimes 2 days, sometimes a week at the biggest moves that we've ever had. And like, it doesn't just end there, like at the end of every move, like, we're almost family, just because of how stressful the situations are. I mean, they say moving is one of the top 5 stressors in someone's life, and we look to take a lot of that stress off of the client, and we put that on ourselves. And so that's kind of where, like, I've dealt with stress my whole life, from strained familiar relationships, and now it helps me better navigate for my clients as well, in their situations.
Yeah, that's the moving stressful thing is definitely something I've experienced. I don't think maybe I have said it on the podcast, but our move here was stressful, I guess is the best word to use. We had all of our stuff on a truck, and we had a challenge with the final mortgage kind of situation coming through, and the realtor on this end ended up making it all better. We had a realtor on the other end not doing what they needed to do, but I got a call, all my stuff's on a truck on its way here, and I had no place to put it because I didn't have the paperwork was not going to be able to be completed. So it was very, very stressful. So it always brings me back when I hear somebody talk about moving to that moment, because my dog was actually in the ER also, which was even the hardest part. Was right after I left, he got moved to the ER. And my husband had the vet call me because it was touch and go, and he couldn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, it's one more thing, 2 very awful things at once.
Mm-hmm.
But it all worked out. So thank goodness for a good
Okay.
realtor on this end. So,
Yeah, that's good.
um, so you graduated college and you decided to start a moving business pretty shortly thereafter, which is not a typical step. What made you choose entrepreneurship versus kind of the traditional career path?
Well, I want to say that I mean, it didn't really fall in my lap per se. It took a lot of thought and consideration of where I was about to go. So during the COVID era, I had moved home in March, and I was about to graduate in May of 2021. And so I had worked for Vitamin Shop, and I was working a part-time job there, and I was actually working out with my dad and a guy that he used to work for almost 20 years ago. He was working out with his son, and his son helped him in his moving business. So he told me I could come and help him as a part-time job. And so I started working for him more and more and more. And he knew I graduated with my accounting degree. I started managing his books and seeing, the profit percentages per job and how he was estimating. And then he was really, really slow at the time, though. I mean, I wasn't getting more than about 10 hours a week to 15 to 20 at the very, very most, over the course of a couple of months. So I worked for another moving company at the same time, and I was moving, swapping days between the two. And eventually I just got to the point where I was, seeing the stuff on Instagram of like get a truck and a trailer and you can do deliveries and hot shots, which is like delivering pallets of materials to from one location to another for different like business to business industries. And so I was like, I could do this. Like, what would stop me from doing it? And I sold my car. So I only had like a car is everything that I had in the world,
Oh,
basically,
wow.
and the clothes on my back, besides like living at my parents' house when I was coming back from college. And I sold it. I got my beat up 99 F-250, 7.3 diesel pickup truck. And I mean, it was super beat up, like no tailgate, like one of the doors wouldn't open. It was crazy. And my dad gave me a really beat up 16-foot open trailer, and I started from there. I was using some lead based services that I had to pay for per lead to be able to start, and I used services like Thumbtack and Angie Leads to be able to build my business. And my dad had been in BNI already, and I didn't really start on that foot, and it was like really hard to gain traction. It was like, who do I reach out to? Who do I talk to about growing my business? And so it took me about, I think, 8 or 9 months of trying to do it on my own because I was hard headed. And then it came around February, March of the next year that I jumped into BNI and my business exploded. So we did like in 6 months about 60,000, and then with BNI I did 280,000 over the course of my first like
Wow.
actual year. So yeah, it was a huge difference between just paying for lead services and then having other, you know, business owners refer you business.
Warm referrals.
Yeah, I mean, it changed my. I
Yes.
bought my first box truck. I bought an enclosed trailer. My grandmother helped me co-sign on a 2021 F-350, and like the pieces just started coming into place. I had some other stuff in between that, a bunch of crazy stuff, but it's beside the point.
Awesome. Well, and I think starting a business at any age can be challenging. What do you think? And you're coming straight out of college with guns blazing. I can do this. What do you think made you feel comfortable to commit to that path?
Well, there wasn't ever really a comfort fitting to the path, so my dad gave me an option when I was living at his house that I wasn't going to be someone else's employee, that I was either going to start my business and grow my business, um, or I was going to get out. That was my option. So
Okay.
there was no comfort about it. It was like, I'm doing it or I'm dying, or I'm, back living on the street like I was in
Okay.
college. So I wasn't going to do
Yep.
that again.
Sink or swim.
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes you got to
Well,
get kicked out of the
hey,
nest.
seems like he knew what was going to work, and you could make it work. So that's great. I love that. So, did you feel coming in, and I don't, and again, I think this isn't necessarily an age thing, but coming into a seasoned, group with people who've been in business for a very long time, did you feel comfortable right away, or did you feel like you had some, you needed to kind of figure it out?
Oh, absolutely not. So I did not feel comfortable one bit. And, I think everybody has the imposter syndrome at some point or another. And some people have it all the time, I definitely came in and was like, I'm not a business owner. Like, I just graduated college. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And
Right.
it was so wonderful being around so many experienced business professionals that were like, look, don't worry about it. Like, you're going to get there and we're going to help you, and we're going to like shoot your path way beyond what you think you can do right now. And that's exactly what happened. So like Sean Coopwood really took me under his wing at that time, and a couple other great men and women in that chapter, and really helped me build my business. It was amazing, the reception that I received.
Well, and I think it's unique too because you didn't have that prior experience, you owned that and you came in. I distinctly remember your attitude was teach me everything. You didn't come in feeling like I know everything already. You were very open to help me grow, and in any means possible, I'm open to, I want to be mentored. I want to know the things that are going to make me successful, and here's a bunch of people that have that, so let me be surrounded by that and grow from that. And I love that that was your attitude. So when you look back, how long you been in your business now?
Almost 5 years.
5 years. So when you look back to the beginning, what do you think that you did right early on that allowed you to be, sustain and grow?
Risky. Risky would be my one answer for that. So there were opportunities that presented themselves, and I tried everything. I mean, my company started as it's called Garrett's Hauling. My slogan was "When you're calling, Garrett's Hauling." Everybody would scream the name. It was a lot of fun, and I built a lot of that rapport with people through that name, and we were. I mean, I was a guy with a truck. I mean, I would pick up furniture off the side of the road and resell it, or I would haul junk off for people, or I would demo sheds, or I would do deliveries, or I would rent a box truck and go move their house, and I was everything. And what was good is that I got all that experience of what I did and did not want to do. And I eventually found out, okay, junk removal is not really for me. Demo's not really for me. What am I really good at? I'm really good at moving. I'm really good at teaching other people how to move. So that's what eventually pushed me into, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And like, I'm just only going to do moving. And then like, it took me a couple of years of like, oh, do I need to change my name? Like I've always, I mean, I'm always a little hesitant, but I eventually like make the push. I mean, I had a dump trailer at one time, and I was like renting out dumpsters, and now here we are. Like, I took myself off my insurance policy and bought two box trucks, and was like, I'm not gonna step foot in the truck. Like, I'm gonna like push myself out of being a mover, a driver, a crew foreman, and I'm gonna let my team do what my team needs to do, and I'm gonna spend my time getting the business for my team to do such an amazing job that they do.
Well, I think it's a very common path. It's a path I took myself to. I think you start out, I'm going to go do this, and you try to do all the things that are like that, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of whittle in into what you really enjoy, and then you find your lane. It's a very common, even I knew kind of when I was a photographer, so when I started my first business in BNI, and I was photographing lots of different things, but I very quickly was like, I really want to go down this road in business. And, once you're in that spot where you've decided this is my thing, then it just kind of goes, right? It just really takes off.
Definitely. Yeah, our numbers are definitely like indicate that for sure. Like year over year, the more we niche, the more our business just skyrocketed.
All right. So before we're going to turn tides a little bit here, and before I show your reports, this is a time where we go into your Power of One and your Palms report. But I do want to say before we look at it that the Palms report and the Power of One are not report cards. They're just snapshots of patterns over time. So when we look at them, it's. I just want to acknowledge that these are never bad things. These are not, and your scores look great. I just want to kind of, people that are listening don't always, this might be the first episode they're listening to. So these aren't like, oh, there's this or that. I just want to point out that these are just patterns that we look at to kind of understand how you're maximizing your BNI experience. So go ahead and let's show those on the screen. So for your power of one, we have a score in the green of 70. So your attendance points is actually 10 in the red, and I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. Your referrals per week are 20 in the green. Your visitors per week are 0 in the gray. Your one-to-one points are green, 20, and CEUs are also 20 in the green. And then if we look at your PALMS report, so the first column is absences and lates. So and again, I'm gonna read everything and then come back. So you had one absence, referrals given inside 19, referrals given outside 11, referrals received inside 3, referrals received outside 21, visitors 1, one-to-ones 25. Thank you for closed business given $30,883 and CEUs 34. So the reason I kind of prefaced with what I said, and I wanted to come back to it, is you've got a few late showing there. And I know that's been a season of growth for you, and you've also had a significant family loss. But when you look at this report overall, what do you see?
Room for improvement because I'm not 100 and I'm very competitive. So,
Okay.
I mean, it definitely irritates me big time. And I need to invite some more people. More people in the room means more money for everybody.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the whole point of these, right? Is that more of everything means more of everything for everyone. But it's also a great opportunity to most people, unless they do a podcast called The Perfect 100, are not looking at this like I look at it. But I'm also a support director consultant is our new title. So I try to look at these with people because I think it's important that they see that there actually is measurement. Join the Art Academy in Memphis. Master the skills needed to create stunning, realistic oil paintings. With expert instruction, you'll refine your craft. Enroll today at artacademyofmemphis.com. You were an accountant, or you got an accounting degree, so you understand looking at numbers. And if we never look at the numbers and performance, and you also own a business, and I'm sure you look at those numbers as well. So, and you said that's what you were doing for your buddy in his business. So it's important sometimes to kind of measure and say, where are we? And where can we go from here? And you're in the green, so that's the good news. But if you do more, if you bring more, if you get more, you get more is kind of that giver's gain, right?
That's right.
So you joined BNI, and I hate to keep harping on it, but it's true, at a younger age than most people do. So what assumptions do you think that people made about you when you walked in the room?
Uh, this youngster, just didn't didn't really know much, which was the truth for sure. And um, yeah, the assumptions also were like, wow, like I can't believe this guy's here. Like the I don't know, the difference, the maturity level, I guess, is what a lot of people assumed of me was different than a lot of people my age because I instantly got along with most of the people in BNI. I mean, I really, besides my mom, like my grandparents raised me, my great grandparents raised me. So my whole life, I've loved being around like older people than myself and like my age group. I never really liked hanging around people my age. It was always like the teachers or my coach or other older people than me in my community that I love to get around because those are the people that knew stuff. Like I knew that everybody my age only knew as much as I did, or less, or more. Barely though. Like I knew hanging around the people that knew more were the right way to go, and I still apply that to my business, not just age, but people in more experience now. I've just recently started going to moving company conventions and really trying to figure out how to be a better business owner.
Love that. Yeah, and true. I think that and you know this because I've said it to you before, is I have a stepson that's I think is a year older than you, and he had a similar background. My husband is from my husband's previous marriage, so divorced parents, but he grew up in a foreign country, back and forth between Mexico and here, and so he had experiences as a child that most kids don't have, most adults don't have. He moved, traveling on planes back and forth alone, and he took this similar route to you, I think, and kind of he had that same sort of maturity to be more adult than probably most of his peers. And he went to the Air Force Academy, and he's living back. He's in a foreign country now, serving. So I think that there's for anybody who's a parent, they would love for their kids to be, everybody wants their kids to be successful. And, I think it's harder for someone who's younger to jump right in and see the value. I think that most people just kind of go the traditional path. I'm supposed to get a job and I'm supposed to whatever. But sometimes that hardship turns into wonderful things. It teaches you at a young age how to adapt and how to, get into things that most kids, because they didn't have that, don't have. So I think that's amazing. And you're amazing for it.
Thank you. And I think your son's pretty amazing
You're
too.
welcome. Thank you. So you're a little famous for those backflips in the meetings, which is not typical BNI behavior. I don't think, as you said earlier, you're probably the only one I know. I've never seen one before. How did that become your thing, and how do you think that impacted connection and culture for you?
So for me, the backflip came about because I've been the backflip guy my whole life. When you have a special talent, you really just got to hone in on it. And something about being different makes people come, like, the gap between you and them is easier to break, because a lot of people come into a room and it's very overwhelming to just walk up to somebody and start a conversation, but when you just saw a guy do a backflip, it's easy to come up and be like, dude, you just did a backflip. Like, that's crazy. How'd you learn to do that? Where'd that come from? And you just start asking some questions, and boom, like you're off to the races. Like, you already know something about somebody that he can do backflips that, like, other people, you probably go your whole life and you wouldn't know stuff like that. So really just being vulnerable with people and showing your special talents is what's so important.
Love that. All right. Yeah, because that's a very, it's a great icebreaker, I think, because nobody else does it. So, and unique to you skill set that is very memorable. So I like that, finding your unique thing to open the doors with. Special talents, as you said.
Yep.
All right. And speaking of special talents, what a great segue. Let's talk about your CliftonStrengths. We have your number one is Futuristic, which is you vividly imagine the future. You inspire and energize others with your vision of what could be. Number two is belief. You have certain core values that are unchanging. These values provide direction and a strong sense of purpose. Number three is responsibility. You take psychological ownership of your commitments, and you are dependable and embrace values such as honesty and loyalty. Your number four is a ranger. You are both organized and flexible. You enjoy figuring out how to align people and resources to get the best results. And number five is strategic. You quickly spot patterns and issues that others miss. You generate alternative paths forward and choose the most effective one. So, what stood out to you most when you got your results back?
That all those things are all the things that I want to be, but don't particularly see myself as at this very moment in time, is what stands out to me.
Okay. So you are those things right now.
Yeah.
And you've always been those things. Let that sink in a minute.
It doesn't feel like that sometimes, I'm a big believer in the E-Myth, which I have right here. I mean, I keep it by me. I'm actually in an E-Myth book club right now. with other business owners, but
Yes, I've read it.
that's
Yes. We talked
that's
about it
huge for
on the
me.
Ivan Meisner episode for those that are unfamiliar with
Oh
it,
yeah,
but yes,
yeah, I just saw that right
keep
before I got
going.
on here. So yeah, I believe all those characteristics define a general, in the army, and defines an entrepreneur, like a CEO leading, a huge business. But me right now, I'm like, what I'm how am I those things? And it might be just my limiting beliefs, at this moment. I definitely like am trying to keep myself moving forward and onwards and upwards towards those things and continually become them. There's just times I get stuck in the day to day, and I'm like, Futuristic, how? I'm worried about this client that we have right now, that I want to make sure this job goes the most perfect move that could have ever been moved. I don't care if they're moving one item or if it's the biggest house that's ever been created. Like, this move is going to go perfectly. And the arranger I can see, because I'm always arranging guys and trucks and who works best with who, and who works best on what type of job, and when can we work both of these jobs? Can we do multiple for one crew in one day? Is it going to make them too tired? Are they going to have enough energy? And for the next day? And there's just that one, I see that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you read, and I had to pull it out, is so if you're watching this,
Mhm.
or not watching this, I'm holding up Garrett's assessment. So there's a bunch of bolded text on in your assessment that talk a little bit about what this means for you. All right. So when you look at your assessment, you see all these bulleted points. So the kind of wider scope of what I read sees you think about the future, but this talks about how you sense that your life has deeper meaning. And because they work in tandem, it's not just by itself. They work in tandem with the other things that you have. So the belief, the responsibility, many of those things you just said are tied together in that. So
Mhm.
you're going to see, and you have high strategic too. So you see where you can fix those things. You see patterns and how they can all come together very easily. So while you may not feel like you embody them yet, they're you. And you will, the cool thing, and this is where coaching comes in. So you can,
Yeah.
this is what I do, is when you sit down with somebody like me, who's a coach who dives deeper, is to help you understand, okay, what does that mean? And how can I use that now? Because lots of people feel exactly how you felt. You just said it. Most people don't, right? I feel like that could be me, but I don't really understand what to do with that because sometimes I'm not in that. And guess what? Sometimes a lot of us aren't in a lot of the things that we're great at. Oftentimes we're not. And that's why we're not as successful, because we're not using what our talent really is. We're busy doing other things we shouldn't be doing. And
Hmm.
actually, this is a good point to mention the coaching session that we did with Aaron. He recognized that he is doing things in his team, which is the team that runs this podcast, that he should be giving things to other people to do because they're not his strengths. We all have that. You're just picking up on it earlier, which is like everything you're doing. You're getting it early, so it means you're going to be a lot more successful a lot later, or a lot earlier than most people, because you're seeing all these things early, which is amazing. What feels most like you of all the things?
Yeah, like I said, the arranger and probably belief, for sure. That for me is the main driver. I've had a lot of huge hiccups in my moving company, and it's just been my belief in God to take care of me that truly is my driver forward, no matter what. And uh, yeah, I mean, I study every single day in God's word, and just know that patience endureth to a perfect work, like it says in James. And just try to imagine that I'm some sword being forged in fire by the daily operations of life.
Okay. That works. I like it. All right. So I have a background. I don't know if we talked about this, but I have a background in Taekwondo, and I'm familiar with Jiu-Jitsu through my stepson. And I know that you did Jiu-Jitsu for several
Hmm.
years. So Jiu-Jitsu is more isn't about brute force. It's more about leverage, timing, and awareness. So when you look at what you have strategic, arranger, and responsibility. Where do you see those same mindsets showing up from what that sort of what you're doing to best your opponent, so to speak, in jiu-jitsu to what you do in your business?
Yeah, so jiu-jitsu was all about strategy. I am like a huge chess player, and so when I got into jiu-jitsu, for me it was like playing chess, and there's a lot of responsibility in it too because it's not just like you said, it's not just brute force. Like you have to be so strategic with, how you manipulate your opponent's, arms and legs and torso and because you can not only seriously injure yourself with wrong movements and just being a little squirrely, uh, you can really, really hurt your opponent. And I mean, your opponents are your teammates. It's all one big team when you're there, whether you consider yourself or not. You're all just training together, and there's no reason to get in there and really hurt somebody. And I find business is kind of the same way as jujitsu. I mean, for me, everything in life is really related. And if you don't think so, it's just because you're not looking hard enough. And between jujitsu and business, I mean, you're gonna have somebody that's like insurance. It jumped almost 300% from us year over year, and like it felt like my insurance company had a rear naked chokehold on me for about 6 months. And then I finally learned after 6 months of getting choked out that, oh well, there's this defensive maneuver I could use called hiring another insurance agent to shop my policies. And there's just like all different all different types of things you have to learn before you can take that next step. And it's like, okay, well, now I know, so the next time when this issue comes up again, I'll know what to do. And I'll know how to defend myself, or I'll even know how to go on the offensive, because there was a lot of time in jiu-jitsu I would be, bigger, stronger, faster, because, I was 23, 24, and I spent, most of my 3 or 4 years from the senior year of my college to the time I did jiu-jitsu, like working out like consistently, like sometimes 2 times a day for 6 days a week. And it just like I was just very, very strong. And so I would utilize that, but there wasn't a lot of technique. And then I was still getting beat by people that were
Right.
half my size, I'm like, how are you doing this? How are you half my size and beating me? And
Yes.
that's in business. It's like you got to be profitable. Like you got to learn how to get skinny and defeat the Goliaths, and it's same way in jiu-jitsu. Like then once I started learning the technique, then it was like, well, I'm stronger, faster, and I have a little bit of technique on my side. Well, then it was like, well, purple belts. I'd give black belts a run for their money. They would always beat me, but like I would at least be better than I was when I had no technique. And so
You had a chance. Yeah.
um, yeah, and I hope one day soon I'll be a competitor against all of the biggest moving companies in Memphis that are doing 7, 8, 9, $10 million a year. That's my aspirations, at least at this moment, for where we're looking to go, just in short term.
Yeah, I love that. So my instructor, so I am a brown belt, and second degree brown belt. I moved, so I didn't move on to, we moved away, so I didn't have my instructor was a former Olympic coach. And once I moved away from him, I was like, just lost the zest for it. But he also
Mm.
taught judo and he taught Hapkido, and those are both strategy and leverage and using your opponent's um, things against them, so to speak. You don't have to be big. You just have to know how to move people, and they don't anticipate you coming. And it's not about, hurting them. It's about defensive moves and,
Right.
keeping yourself safe. And from a female perspective, that's kind of how we looked at it. But I was highly competitive as well. We went to tournaments and all that. So a lot of wonderful parallels for business in there. You also, because you have high strategic, how you see past that people miss. So how do you balance thinking ahead and staying in the day-to-day operations? Or are you just kind of, you said earlier, maybe just sort of mired in the day-to-day operations right now?
Well, I've been reading a book, which I'm like drowning in all the books I'm reading right now, but I've been reading 10x is easier than 2x. One of my coaches and one of my good friends is told me, "Hey, you need to read this book," and so I said, "Okay." Like, I have at the point I was like, I don't know where else to go. Like I need help. Where can I go from here? And he was like, "Just read this. Trust me, it'll change your life." And it's all about 80% of the things that you shouldn't be doing, and that you should delegate your responsibilities to someone else, and the 20% of things that you want to do and that are your unique talent are the things that you need to do. And just like the CliftonStrengths, it's so good to know that the things that I want to do, the business owner jobs that I want to do, the arranger, this, futuristic, this strategic planner, like all of those things are actually my unique talent, the things that I'm good at, not the,
Yes.
being the first
Yes.
person that answers the phone, not being the person that is like on the truck, the first face that clients see. I mean, that's really why I changed my business name too, is, it was Garrett's Hauling. Like, there was an expectation for the clients that, I would be the person they're talking to. I would be their mover. And that wasn't the thing I was really,
Right.
really good at. It was arranging all of the things and thinking of a forward direction of where we're going to go, which kind of leads me into the name of LightSpeed. I grew up with my dad watching Star Wars my whole life. And like LightSpeed was one of the coolest like phenomenons I'd ever seen. Not only just how fast they would go, but for me, it was the meticulous planning that you have to put into place to be able to make Lightspeed happen, right? Without like blowing up immediately. Like you have to like use your supercomputer to chart your course, light years ahead of you, to miss meteors and stars and planets and everything along the way. It takes meticulous, meticulous, meticulous planning to be able to not die. And that was like what I loved most about it, because then once your course has been charted, like you get to go faster than anyone's ever gone in their entire life. And I hope Elon signs me up, because I want to be the first one.
Staying ahead in a world driven by technology is key. At Wisdom Integrators, we don't just solve problems, we create opportunities. Wisdom Integrators, connecting your world, solving your problems.
So we talked about moving being stressful earlier for the people to go through, but that stress also becomes your stress. So what systems have you built to alleviate that stress for yourself? So it's not just moving furniture and getting people to where they need to be, but also so you stay healthy.
Yeah, so for a long time, over a year and a half or two almost, my grandmother's actually answered the phone for me. So it was a lot of trial and error of them answering the phone and me answering their questions that kind of helped me build this system of like, okay, if I can have my, wonderful, beautiful, you know, elderly grandmothers answering the phone, I could have anybody do this, And so recently, the reason I brought up the 10X book, going back to that, is that I hired an office manager full time. I was like, you know what, we're just going to make it. Like, God's got us. I'm providing an opportunity for another person. This is the 80% of things that I shouldn't be doing. And the 20% of things that I need to be doing with my time are either, high ticket sales, arranging, all the crews and men and overseeing all of that, overseeing our operations manager and, our crew leads, and like driving the success of the company forward, being, in networking events. And so that was really where like I went into that avenue, from where I was. And yeah, it's just been, sometimes it's just overwhelming to look back, from the past, like you said, like analyze your past and where you've come. I mean, I've come from, seriously, 5 years ago from right now, like it's crazy for me to even be on a podcast with you, Tammy. because I used to wake up on, the side of the street, truly. Like, I remember parts of my life that were like that. And now, I mean, every day is such a blessing to be able to even, help people. And like, that's my life and what I've given it to. Sorry, that's probably beside the point. I got a little emotional there.
No, you're fine.
It's just
I
awesome.
think there's a lot of yeah, I think it's great that you're able to, I think because you're the age that you are, there's already a lot of change happening, just personally, but to be also building a business that's successful, and continuing to grow and grow and grow. It's an amazing two things to happen all at the same time. So I think that it's we don't see a lot of young business owners in BNI, which I think we need to see more of. So, if you were talking to somebody else who was kind of starting their journey, what would be the things you think would be important for them to know about why, just running your business and getting into BNI would be a great thing for them?
Yeah, BNI alone, because it like forces you to become even more professional, even more well spoken, because it's such a safe environment to be in because you are with other like minded business professionals that understand where you are and like how nerve wracking it is just to get up in front of other business owners and talk about your business for 45 seconds, let alone get in front of a customer and be put on the spot of like, okay, I have to like help this person know, like, and trust me in 45 seconds to understand I'm the best option. And I'm scared to death. Like that they're going to, give me the money and then I'm going to get the job and then I've got to do the job and then I've got to like follow up with the customer after the job and make sure the job went well and they were satisfied and like all that's terrifying. The best advice I can give is like 100% find what you want to do by, you know, either seeking out other people who've done it before or just trying it. I mean, what's the worst that can
But
happen?
you got to lose.
Yeah, you have nothing to
Yeah,
lose and you
love
have
that.
everything to
All right.
gain.
So, right. Yeah. So, what excites you most about the next phase of your business?
Yeah, so hiring the office manager has been super exciting and it's only been a week and I've already
Oh,
like
okay.
just being able to meet with you and not answer the phone for an hour, fantastic. I'm so excited for the future. So like where we're going from here is I've got a couple more conventions planned for the rest of this year. My wife's expecting on September 24th, so like that's going to be awesome. I'm trying to put myself in a position
Yay.
now where I can, manage our managers and manage like, you know, I don't want to say just like VIP clients, but other like commercial jobs, like really big projects that need a lot of like meticulous planning and oversight for more like long-term engagements, and a lot of BNI, a lot of BNI. Like BNI has been so great to us. I mean, I don't know if it's okay or not, but to disclose like BNI alone and the time investment that we put in, which is like 2 hours a week, like an hour and a half in our meeting and, one to ones plus like CEUs and stuff, which I'm learning every day. And if you're not learning every day, like you should just start because that's the only way to like get ahead and stay ahead. Don't ever get complacent.
Right.
But BNI for us has done over $150,000 of business just in the past 6 months. Um, and it continue like last Tuesday, I went to another BNI chapter that was not my own because I have two visits in 6 months, and just to see how the chapter is, the life of the chapter. I'm the only mover in Memphis too, which is astounding to me. Anyways, I show up,
Yes.
restoration company. They need a
Yes.
pack out, and they're like, "I need you today," and I'm like, "I'm available today. Let's do it,"
Right.
And $10,000 later, like that's all it takes is just showing up and like being
Yeah.
there for people when they need you the
Yes.
most. So,
Well, and that's also strategic. So recognizing that there's no one doing what you're doing and figuring out where you need to be in order to capitalize on that opportunity means you've figured it out. Not everybody has yet, so that's good stuff. What kind of reputation do you hope you have in 5 years?
I always tell people, on my deathbed, they could forget me being a great businessman. If I'm remembered for being a great husband, a great father, and a great Christian. I think that's the only kind of reputation I'd ever want to precede me. But, if along the way that I've helped a lot of people, with their moving and storage needs, I think that's great too.
Perfect. All right, so time for the quick fire round. So just short, quick answers to these very fun questions. What is most dangerous, a backflip in dress shoes or carrying a solid wood dresser upstairs?
Solid wood dresser and upstairs.
Okay. Heaviest item you've ever moved?
Ooh. Not 750-pound. With the least amount of men. So me and one other guy, 750-pound armoire that was 7 feet wide. It was 8 feet tall.
Oh my!
And it took some rigging up to get it inside, laid down, stood up perfectly, and then moved over to where it needed to be. That was probably the heaviest and trickiest item that I've ever moved. But we've also moved
that sounds
800-pound glass table up a flight of stairs into a downtown apartment. That was also terrible. So.
Oh my, that sounds hair raising.
Save your back.
Okay. Morning person or late night problem solving?
I'm gonna have to go with late night problem solver. It's always a tough get up, but I always want to stay up late and have to force myself to go to bed.
Same. What's tougher, a sweaty Jiu-Jitsu grappling session or a full move in full Memphis summer heat?
Full move. I've done tournaments and went 8 Jiu-Jitsu matches back to back, and I will not take a Memphis summer heat move over that again.
It's awful. For those of you that have never been to Memphis in the summer, picture 100% humidity and 100 plus degrees in temperature. It is not fun. All right. One habit that keeps you from going off the rails?
Discipline. 100%. It's the only.
Okay.
It's the only thing. You have to do the boring things day after day after day.
Awesome. You probably have that high up in those are probably in the rest of your top 10 in your CliftonStrengths. What's one thing customers never think about that actually matters most in a move?
Professional packing. 100%. The packing is...
Because they don't get broken or just because it's more efficient?
Both. So what would take a client somewhere, 3 to 4 weeks would take us, a day or two at the very most. And also what would take us a day or two compared to their 3 or 4 weeks would keep them 100% completely protected, just from the knowledge and experience that we have as well with keeping things safe.
That makes sense. I had the great fortune of being packed and moved by professionals before, and I highly recommend it. It is so much better. I think I've moved 18 times, and only one of those was professionally packed and moved, and boy, was that amazing. All right.
I heard it the other day. They say if you hire a professional mover, you'll never go back.
Yes. It is really hard not to after that. One value you refuse to compromise on, even when it costs you time or money?
Integrity, 100%. It doesn't matter, how much time or money it costs me. If somebody messed something up, we own it 100% on the spot. Get with the client about it. We fix it and we bring it back. It doesn't matter what it is. We're going to make it right.
Okay, awesome. And last one, finish this sentence. Consistency works because...
You work.
Okay. All right. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for being here. I was really excited to bring your story. There's a lot of good stories out there, but I love a young entrepreneur being successful and, recognizing the patterns and using the tools that others maybe don't use as much to be successful and have great success with it. So thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And if you enjoyed as a listener this content or any of the other content from all of the other podcasts, because there are 30 plus of them sitting out there waiting for you at this point in time, do please subscribe, like the video, and comment on YouTube if you don't mind, because that would be helpful. And if you're a BNI member, remember to give yourself a CEU credit and share this with somebody who you think might benefit. And we will look forward to seeing you next time on The Perfect 100. Thanks for listening to The Perfect 100. If today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired you to show up differently in your chapter, share it with your team, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you're curious about your own Clifton strengths and how to bring out the best in yourself or your chapter or your business, head to TammyZurak.com to learn more about building your superpowers into everything you do. Keep showing up, keep connecting, and keep building your perfect 100.